And it says here that I say no to further funding of the Russian-Ukrainian war. I say no to us paying for the Ukrainian state's operations for the next 10 years. And I say no to utility prices rising because of the war. Everyone will receive this in the coming days. Please fill it out and send it back. I need it. Now, when I have to fight against Ukraine's EU membership, and I will win this battle, I'll say a few words about this shortly. I think at least then I can fight for it. You might think they're coming after me. But I can tell you there was a vote in Hungary and the people cast their ballots. The people have decided that they do not want this. So you can bite off my head or even chop me into tiny pieces here in the Brussels Council chamber, but that won't change a thing. And I tell them this: in the next 100 years, there won't be a parliament that would ever vote for us to support the Ukrainians. We will certainly help them, but for us to fully support them, and with our own money, that is simply impossible.
It should be admitted, and if we were to admit Ukraine into NATO, my apologies, I meant Ukraine, that would signify a world war. If we admit Ukraine into the European Union, that would mean war. If Ukraine were a member of the European Union today, then every single European country, including Hungary, would be actively engaged in a war with the Russians. So, Ukraine's admission presents us with a war problem and an economic problem as well. The Ukrainians have stated they need $800 billion over the next 10 years to operate the country and another $700 billion for their military expenditures. From where? And the union, they said it was fine, they would give it. I was sitting at that council meeting where they made this decision. 3 of us, we voted against it.
And only one individual spoke. Oh, I see.
We, the Slovaks and the Czechs, voted against it. And we achieved that. When the next 90 billion euros are sent to Ukraine, it cannot burden us. That's what happened. So we were left out. We managed to stay out of it. The situation is, these are such huge sums. I mean, 800 billion euros and 700 billion euros. Just imagine this would cover 60 years of the Hungarian pension system's expenses. The entire Hungarian family support could be funded from this for 40 years. So these are truly enormous sums. And it says here that I say no to further funding of the Russian-Ukrainian war. I say no to us paying for the Ukrainian state's operations for the next 10 years. And I say no to utility prices rising because of the war. Everyone will receive this in the coming days. Please fill it out and send it back. I need it. Now, when I have to fight against Ukraine's EU membership, and I will win this battle, I'll say a few words about this shortly. I think at least then I can fight for it. You might think they're coming after me. But I can tell you there was a vote in Hungary and the people cast their ballots. The people have decided that they do not want this. So you can bite off my head or even chop me into tiny pieces here in the Brussels Council chamber, but that won't change a thing. And I tell them this: in the next 100 years, there won't be a parliament that would ever vote for us to support the Ukrainians. We will certainly help them, but for us to fully support them, and with our own money, that is simply impossible. And I'm not saying that the European Union should kick out the Ukrainians and close the door as if we'd never seen them. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that just like we did with the Turks, the European Union should sign an agreement with them too. What kind and how? But let's not let them in as members, because if they become members, you can never get them out. I won't quote any folks saying here, but let them into your home and they'll kick you out. But you can't let in a country this big, because that will cause trouble. So a contract, cooperation, which can be modified, can be terminated, but you can't grant membership status, which comes with rights. Well, just listen to how they talk now.
They are still outside right now. Imagine what you are now hearing from President Zelensky. That is the voice of the petitioners.
What will happen? What will happen if we let him in? What will he say once he's there? If he's already speaking like this to the very people he wants to join. So to make friends and to win the sympathy of the Hungarian people, that's a strange way to go about it. The way he's currently dishing out slaps to me in Davos.
And Hungarians are also being demandingly forced to give up their money. This simply cannot go on like this. I just want to tell you all that we must not, under any circumstances, allow our money to be taken to Ukraine. But since we're already here, Gemma, my back. Then I'll tell you, and if Philip grants me more time, I will recount my one-on-one negotiations with Mr. Zelensky and President Putin, if there are still a few lessons left to share. I visited President Zelensky when I traveled to Kyiv and then to Moscow, and I told President Zelensky that I believed he was in trouble. The military reports, the economic background, the deployable weapons, the available manpower, and indeed the overall battlefield situation all indicate that time is not on his side. Time is working against him, and I have come here to offer my assistance if he permits it.
If he comes to the realization that time is not on his side, now Shuka push and he is truly interested in peace, a swift peace, or at the very least a ceasefire, then I will endeavor to negotiate the Russian aspect of this in Moscow. But for that to happen, he must genuinely desire it. I'm not saying he laughed at me.
There were two of us in the room, so you need to be careful at times like this.
But he was harshly dismissive. He said, I misunderstood the situation. He believes time is on their side. The longer the war lasts, the more likely they are to win. They will defeat the Russians on the front lines. Ooh, and after they defeat them, they'll exact retribution from the Russians. I said, I wish them much success with that. I don't want to spoil their evening, but still, don't the facts matter? And is there some secret plan for how to defeat a nuclear power on the front line?
How is that going to happen? And I told him that Biden was still the president back then. I told him that I know the Americans well. They have a lot of good qualities, but also some difficult aspects. And now Biden is the president who is campaigning. But there'll be an election soon. This was in July and the election was in November. And I said, next year, a man named Donald Trump will be the president of the United States, a man I know, with whom I've spoken several times about this very issue. Believe me, he won't give you a single penny. In fact, he will make you pay back everything. And he absolutely won't let you drag America into a war. Don't count on that.
Because what he said with filter it, I don't know who will win, and if this certain Donald Trump wins, we don't know what he'll do. Calm down, here we are. Well, this is roughly the modest Ukrainian attitude. While they are neck deep in trouble, sitting in it, they act like this. What were my talks with President Putin about? Not this time, but the most recent one. I asked how much he insists on the clearing out and occupation of this Donetsk territory. Do you understand what I'm referring to? The Russians set themselves the goal of occupying the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, and they also occupied two others, by the way. Now they have indeed occupied 80% of the Donetsk region, but not the remaining 20%. And Putin said, look, from a Russian point of view, the situation is quite straightforward. The Ukrainian army is a good one, even though they're about to run out of men and they fight well. But we are stronger. Here is this 20% of territory. And we have decided, come what may, we will take it back. We will occupy it. Many Ukrainians will die, and many Russian soldiers will also perish. We must achieve this through combat, but we will certainly get it done. You have a choice. Either you help us make the Ukrainians understand that it's better if they surrender and we reach an agreement, so that after that, I will no longer advance with my army. Or there is no such agreement. I will occupy it by my own strength, and then I will decide what happens next. I wouldn't say this is a nice thing, nor a friendly conversation. But this is the reality. When there's war, power is what counts. This is how things look from a Russian perspective. The first reason is because the Europeans have decided that, unlike the Americans, they will support the war and give the Ukrainians everything they need for it. Sooner or later, this will result in them sending soldiers.
There's a written agreement between the French and the British to send troops to Ukrainian territory. And if the deployment of soldiers to Ukraine begins, then our soldiers will go from here too, especially if there's a government that can't say no in Brussels.
Horthy also struggled with this. Well, from 39 to 41, they managed to stay out of it. But then there was such immense pressure, and he simply couldn't find a solution to the problem of how to remain neutral. And in the end, despite everything at the dawn, only Hungarian soldiers perished.
Not in Budapest. That came later, like I said, at the dawn. So they can. I want to tell everyone who thinks an independent country can't be forced into war to seriously reconsider that opinion. Because it's true. They will force them in if you don't resist. If the people clearly do not stand against it, and the leaders of the countries everywhere, in Berlin and Brussels, do not advocate for peace, and do not declare that we will stay out of this war, therefore the people in Europe do not want what their leaders want. And we need some time. That's why we need at least one Fidesz, because it will take time to rally the European people to our side in the fight against Brussels. We'll start with the Hungarians, but then the Czechs and the Slovaks will come, and the others will follow too. The Austrians, the Germans, and so on. They don't want war, and they certainly don't want their money sent to Ukraine. So why do they tolerate it? Why do they tolerate this? There's a trick they use to deceive European people, and I'm fighting for this, just like in Hungary. I know the opposition's intentions, but I fight to show the people, to reveal their true intentions. It's the same in Europe. European leaders tell their voters that the war won't cost them a single penny. Because first of all, they are taking out a loan right now, and then we will defeat the Russians. The Russians will pay reparations, and there will also be some war spoils, won't there? And then from this, we will recover all the money that we gave to the Ukrainians. And just imagine, in Europe, they actually believe this. It's true that in decreasing numbers, not everyone there is completely stupid. In diminishing proportions, many still believe that this will actually happen. And when we fight in Brussels, no longer alone, but with 2 or 3 other prime ministers, we speak about how this is just an illusion, that it will never ever be, that they will never ever defeat the Russians on the front line, and that the Russians won't pay, but will demand even more from them. I'm assured of that as I stand here. So this is an illusion, but this is a Sisyphean task, just like at home.
Migration has fundamentally altered the appearance of European cities, completely transforming the way of life there.
Look at the American news. There are huge debates in America today because the American president wants to deport those residing there without legal grounds. This leads to clashes, people are shot, and semi-civil war conditions exist in some cities. What I want to say is if you let them in, you can't control it. War is like this too.
The Westerners also have that problem. They've invested a great deal of money. Now we should tell them to stop.
It was a bad decision. That money is now lost. Don't throw good money after bad. But they can't stop themselves. They just keep chasing their money. They want to get it back somehow.
We have our own goals. We have our national interests. And we stand by them. That's final. And we cooperate with those who best enable us to assert our national interests.
We will continue to purchase gas and oil from the Russians. We will also need to strive for good neighborly relations with the Ukrainians once the war is over. Well, everything has its proper place, and we shouldn't abandon our national viewpoint and instead shift to some international Brussels, or I don't know what kind of position.
We must stand for our own national interests.